Join me, 48 Hours correspondent Erin Moriarty, on my podcast, My Life of Crime, as I take on true crime investigations like no other. This season, I'm looking into the labyrinth of crime and secrets within families. I'm cutting straight to the evidence and talking to the people directly involved, including investigators and the families of victims. Listen to My Life of Crime with Erin Moriarty wherever you get your podcasts.
This is crucial, must-know information. Listen in. Hey, everybody. I'm Kelly Wilkness here with Anita Joyce, and this is Decorating Tips and Tricks. Today, we are talking about must-know decorating tips. There are things that you need to know, and when you know them, it's going to make decorating less of a mystery, easier, more enjoyable, and then hence lots of fun.
Yes, I think these are so good, and they're really kind of things that professionals know that sometimes people who are not professionals don't know. So we're kind of spilling the tea, as they say.
Yeah. I never get that, spilling the tea. Like, what's the tea? Like, when did that start happening?
I don't know, but
I'm always there. Like, give me a tea. Let me order a tea.
I love drinking
brewing a tea. Yeah, it's funny.
I
don't know. Everybody seems to use that all across the country. It's not like a geographic thing.
Well, now everything's on the internet, so it's, once some trend starts, it spreads.
But some of these decorating tips have previously been a secret to you, and there's no reason why they should be kept a secret. So we are going to shed some light on all of that today. Get ready, listen in. If you're doing something where you can't take notes, you can take notes later, and we'll also have sort of a wrap up. But I don't think we'll go through every single tip in the show notes. So
right,
sharpen your pencil, pay attention.
That's right, because we usually just include the links there, but not necessarily all the key points.
Right, because it's more fun to listen. Because it's a podcast.
You can listen again if you miss something. So that's the beauty of it.
So today, some of these tips will really help you make sense of what good design means and what it means to you. So maybe not every single tip is going to be on point for you, but taken as a whole, these are things you should be aware of and think about, even if you decide to depart from them.
Mm-hmm.
So my first must-know decorating tip is plan for the big picture. So think about the big picture before you get started. Even if you're just adding what would seem like a small piece of your decor puzzle, think about how that is going to impact the bigger picture. And certainly if you're starting from scratch or revisiting all of your look and style, you want to think of the big picture. And then it'll give you, I should say, the ability to make choices that are going to support the overall look. Don't just run around and be willy-nilly purchasing things and ordering things online, and then you just have a mismatch of a bunch of things.
And my first tip is my very favorite tip. You know what it is.
I don't want to say it. It's your tip.
Photograph your room.
Yeah.
Take some pictures of your room, because walking in, you may not notice some things that if you take a picture of it, you're going to notice. There's so many things about your room that may not be quite right, or that you may not like, that your brain has already told you, I don't like that, and so I'm going to ignore it. Kind of like the refrigerator hum. I don't even notice it. You know what I mean? You just kind of turn that off on your brain. Mm-hmm. But it's the same thing when you walk into your room. There's going to be something in your room that maybe you don't like, that your brain has already said, we're going to ignore this. But then when you take a picture of it, it's a fresh way of looking at it. And then you may be surprised. I forgot about, that wall has all these, scuff marks on it or whatever. So that's the beauty of the photograph. And then it's also like a little different angles, and just, it really helps you focus in on how the room looks. So it's just, I highly recommend it. It just helps me so much see things. And even if it's a room in my house, I do try to photograph the rooms. And then also it's fun to look back at the history of your room. So I think it's just a great idea, and keep those pictures, and you can kind of keep them all in some folders on your computer where you have like living room, kitchen, and you can kind of see how it's progressed over time.
Great. Okay. Function trumps style. Now, folks say, oh, please, this is a decorating podcast. But look, if you don't get the function right, it doesn't matter how many pretty things you smash into that room. It is not going to feel good. It's not going to work well, and you're not going to like it. So function trumps style. Get the function right, and then the style will follow. Certainly don't forget the style. You want to add all of that, but you need to have the room flow correctly. You need to have passageways for people walking through. You need to have it be comfortable where they're not reaching across to try to put a glass on a table that's too far away. And the room should function for the purpose of which you and your family needs to function. So, really think about that. How do you want to live in this room? That's just the first question I ask my clients when I meet them, my clients that I meet in person. Okay. Yeah. They'll start telling me about, and I found this and I just don't know. Can I mix metals? And la, 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 la. And I get all these questions and I say, let's take a step back. What do you want to be doing in this room? When we're done, how do you see yourself using this room? And that is going to inform all your decisions.
I think that's such a good point because you don't want to be coming up with things that are just really pretty, but really impractical for how you use the space. So 100% agree with that. Another thought to keep in mind is going bold in small spaces. And you don't have to do this, but I think there's a lot to be said for trying out something in a very small space. Like say it's a little powder room, a very neutral powder room. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, that's what I have and I love it. But if your bathroom, let's say, for example, if you feel like it's boring, it's not exciting, this is a great place to experiment with wallpaper or paint or bold patterns because it is such a small space. And if you mess up, it's not so much of a big deal fixing it versus some massively large room. I mean, for example, I might try to take on painting a bathroom, but I'm not going to take on painting a bedroom or a living room. That just stresses me out thinking about it. So this is a great place to go bold. And it's just kind of a fun thing too, a fun surprise when guests come over and they walk in and you've got this really bold, whatever wallpaper on the wall. I think it's just a great, fun place to try new things and to go bold.
And keep your dimensions on your phone. You can be the dimensions of all your rooms if you need that at a particular time, if you're decorating a lot of spaces, or the dimensions that you need a specific piece for. It's okay. I was going to say the worst thing. It's so not the worst thing, but a not great thing is to see something like, particularly a one-off, like an antique or something like that, and you love it, but you're just not sure, is it going to fit on that little half wall I have, or is this going to be too big for my entry? And you don't know, and you're not home and you can't call anyone, call a friend to go measure. So take the measurements of things that you're looking for. I'm sure if you're listening to this podcast, you are a person that when you go out into the universe, you got your eyes open and you're always thinking about, maybe bringing something home to add to your decor. So why not just have a little, either a file, or sometimes I'll just send myself an email and take a picture of it, or people use all kinds of apps. I'm sure Anita might even have an app that does just this thing. So keep the dimensions of what you're looking for on your phone, or it could be dimensions that you need for a piece of art. We've always told you, don't buy a dinky piece of art, go big. So how big? Well, kind of like 2 arm lengths. Well, get the exact dimensions, put them in your phone, and then you always have them with you.
That's such an excellent point, Kelly. And it seems so obvious, but I did buy this massive piece for my island in North Carolina at Round Top and had it shipped there. And somewhere in the process, and maybe I'd like to say it was before I bought it. I don't remember.
It grew.
Well, I don't. Anyway, at some point I realized it was too big, but I guess I don't know if I checked it after I bought it or before, but at some point I realized it was not going to work as the island or the peninsula in the kitchen, which is what I originally bought it for. So, now it's a buffet in there. Actually, it works fine, but if I couldn't use it as a buffet, I'd be really crying to have shipped something that large, that far, and not have it work. So and that's
a perfect example. Anita's at Round Top. She finds this thing she thinks is really going to work. I wasn't there with her, but I'm imagining how this happened. You're getting kind of sweaty and bubbly and excited, and you're like, I can't walk away from this thing.
It was really pretty. Yeah,
I have to have it, and it'll work. But luckily you were able to make it work someplace else. And I
Yes.
think I did see that when you took me to your house when I visited you there, and it is gorgeous. So I'm so glad you got to make it work someplace.
That is the one. Now, we used to talk about this all the time. We don't really talk about it much anymore. But the limited color palette.
Oh, yeah. That's a good
remember?
one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you're new to us, we did talk about that a lot, when we hammered that one home. And it is an excellent tip.
Well, I felt like we felt like we covered it enough. We kind of didn't really talk about it anymore, but I just want to clarify on this that we are talking about using just a few colors in each room. It's not something you have to do, but it's a lot easier to get a cohesive look if you do this. And some people say, you know what? That's not my look. I like a lot of different colors. I like a lot of different bold colors in my room. And if that is your look, I think that's fine. But I will say this, it is harder to make that look cohesive. And I feel like the more color in the room, the harder it is to pull off. So those are my thoughts on that. So if you're, so I'd say the less comfortable you are with decorating, the fewer colors I would go with. But anyway, but yes, I do love just using a few colors in a room. I think it just kind of keeps it nice and tight.
Right. Another aspect of that, which we've discussed and we both are able to do because we have a limited color palettes, is then you get to move your furniture from room to room. So not only is it easier overall to decorate because you've curated the universe for yourself, whether it be fabrics or accessories or what have you, you kind of know you're going to be choosing them in these colors. But then it's so easy to take that rug from, the dining room and put it someplace else if you get tired of it there, or that chair and move it into your bedroom out of the living room. So it's another good reason to do that. You have a lot of flexibility in addition to creating flow in your house.
Yeah, I do that all the time. So it's easy for the reason you just said. It's easy to move things if you've got the same color throughout your house.
Get height in a room. We've told you many, many times, hang those curtains as high as you possibly can. That's a way to do it. You could also hang things a little bit higher. You could have a gallery wall if you've got a big open wall. Add a tall mirror, maybe something arched or just something really oversized. It's not great to walk into a room and sort of like you almost feel like you have a visor on, like a workout visor or a tennis visor, because it's like it's blocked off, like there's you can't see above because there's really nothing to look at. Like all the furniture is low, everything's sort of hugging the ground. And even if you don't have very high ceilings, if you don't have something that has some height, it's going to feel like that. You're going to feel very pulled down. A large plant is a great way to do that. If you don't want to invest in a large plant, a plant on a plant stand, something like that. Even a floor lamp, something that adds some height is really important. And, I wouldn't just have one thing that sort of then kind of is like a little giraffe on its own out there. You want like a little cluster. So a couple of higher things, maybe a tall mirror hanging, maybe a floor lamp on the other side, and maybe a plant in a big, nice basket, in some corner somewhere. So you've got these points of height throughout the room. So your eye goes up and down and all around.
I think what you're saying is so true. And it is important to have more than just one of those pieces in the room. So you don't have just one tall item, but you definitely want varying heights. But I also wanted to add, Kelly, because this comes up so much, that there's a very tall ceiling, maybe kind of a cathedral ceiling, and people are wanting to fill up all that space on the wall up really high. We're not really talking about that.
No, don't get me wrong. We're not talking about that.
Right. So because you don't need artwork above like an 8-foot level in general.
No.
So we're just kind of talking about like below the 8-foot line. So,
right.
Okay.
Then in that instance, without going too far into it, you're going to add a big chandelier that's coming down and it would fill up that space, something very overscale, large.
Right. Exactly. Or maybe just one thing on the fireplace.
Right.
So, yeah. And another thing I was thinking about onto something else is when you have collections, because you and I, love to collect, Kelly. And I think these collections can get out of hand. They can overtake your house. But also if you have them spread out around the house, they don't have the same impact. So my suggestion there is keep all of your collectibles kind of clustered together if you can, like on one table or in one bookcase. And that's going to give them a real sense of presence in the room. So you want them collected together, but don't have a situation where there's just too much. So be sure and curate those collections. Just display your best ones. It doesn't need to have every single thing in that collection, but the gathering of them all together in one place, I think really gives a beautiful feeling to the collection.
Yeah. And to that point, if you have a collection, make it more accessible. I really think, I mean, don't let anybody get upset, but I think gone is the day of things behind the glass in the china cabinet. Like, maybe some glasses, things like that, but collections behind glass, like, I don't think it's really doing anything for your collection. I mean, unless you're concerned that toddlers that you have are going to come and take them. That's
But what do you do if you
of your life
have a cabinet with glass doors? What are you suggesting?
Well, I mean, what I'm really talking about, we can talk about that too, but I was really talking about the collection. Like, isn't it more fun to have your collection someplace where it's accessible? Yeah. Like, put it out on a table where you can really see it and you can appreciate it. And maybe don't put, cluster it together, as Anita's saying, like gather it. But if you have a collection of 50 things, maybe only put out 5 or 10 or an odd number, something like that. 12. That's not odd either, is it? See, I told you I'm not good at math. Okay, 15, 13. But, maybe 5 is good. 7. So it's accessible. So you can really see it at a point where, people can really appreciate it. That would be my thought on something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's your turn.
Oh, my turn. Okay. Break up your dining room chairs. You are not holding conferences there. So all your chairs don't have to match. It's not, the room in your lawyer's office where all the chairs match. Break them up. Don't be afraid to do that. That's definitely been a look for a long time now, even adding a bench instead of chairs on one side or both sides with benches, or Parsons chairs at the end and some sort of wood or metal chair along the sides. It's a really great look. If you have all matching chairs now, it's a really easy thing to change. I really do like the idea of 2 upholstered Parsons chairs at the end. I think.
Me too.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
And, because there's so many hard surfaces often in a dining room. The table is wood, or, maybe it's cement, or maybe it's glass or something like that, but it's a hard surface. And obviously the floor, you may or may not have a rug, and other pieces of furniture. Maybe you have some draperies, but normally in a dining room, there's not a lot of fabric other than maybe the drapes, right? So adding that is a great way to bring in some softness and texture.
Great idea. Talking about fabric, I think another way to really add some interest to a room is layering patterns. And I think the secret here is you want your patterns to be different scales. So maybe you have a big scale pattern and a lower scale pattern. And if I have one pattern that has lots of color in it, then I try to add other simpler patterns to that mix. So maybe patterns that just have 2 colors pulled out, and maybe just pull maybe 2 or 3 colors out of that multicolor pattern and just use 2 color patterns for all of my other patterns in the room.
That was an excellent mini pattern lesson. Repetition makes it purposeful, whether in color, pattern, or even in items. Color, if you go with the limited color palette, you're repeating a limited number of colors throughout your home. That makes it purposeful, right? Not like just I rando bought this emerald green throw or something. Pattern. Anita just gave you a great mini lesson in pattern. Repeating that pattern throughout. Maybe you've got it in drapes. Certainly not the whole room. We talked about that being such a dated but kind of crazy fun look a while ago, but most people aren't doing that. But maybe you repeat the pattern someplace. You have it on a pillow and then you have it someplace else. Maybe you have it on an ottoman. That makes it purposeful. Even an item. Say, like in my home, one thing that I really like to collect are these white pitchers, ironstone, ones from Home Goods, just white pitchers. If I like the silhouette, they're usually so inexpensive at yard sales and things like that. I cannot stop myself. So, yeah. And they're so useful. We've talked about this before. I have my wooden spoons and things in the kitchen. That's my go-to thing for flowers when I get them, home, and just plop them in there. So I repeat that item throughout my home. And so then it seems showing your collection in various places, and it seems like it's purposeful. Like, oh yeah, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, obviously this woman really obviously likes white pictures. It creates this flow and makes it feel like it makes sense.
Yes. And my little tip on that is make sure the item is waterproof before you try to use it for an arrangement. Did that a couple times. So where there was a crack on the bottom.
If you're not sure, slip in your mason jar or your tomato sauce jar or something like that.
Or just do a test in your sink. So you'll see if
test in your sink.
Yes. You don't want to ruin a piece of furniture. Another thing while you're in the kitchen is to use outdoor fabrics in the kitchen and dining room. There are a lot of fabrics that hold up to stains that tend to be used for outdoor use, that are really going to be something that are going to be easy to clean. So we have some French stools at the island in our kitchen, and then I used a perennial fabric that looks like linen. You really can't tell it's not linen, even just if you're very close to it. And I just kind of wipe it off if somebody spills something on it, and it just works beautifully.
Yeah, that's a great tip. So, because sometimes people just feel like, oh, well, that's outdoor. Just like we're saying, you could use indoor, outdoor rugs inside as well.
Right. And I've done that too.
I had a love seat in our former house, and I spent, what I thought at that time was a lot of money on these pillows. I had them made, and they sat there, sort of, on their side against the window, and it was just panes of glass, like French door type of panes of glass. And in a very short time, the back of the pillows were all faded.
Oh, yeah.
I was so bummed.
But I think that could even happen with outdoor fabric. I mean, they don't last forever.
Maybe, but it was just a couple of months. I think they would have lasted. I mean, you definitely got
maybe a little better. Yeah, that's true.
Because I have some umbrellas that I leave out in the baking south-facing sun in my house here, and they're fine.
Well, that's a good point. Actually, I think what the demise of my pillows had to do with a squirrel that took off and ripped into them. It looked like somebody had just thrown up, vomited pillow stuffing all over my front yard one day.
Oh my gosh.
And the squirrels had gotten in my pillows. Yeah.
Yikes.
Yeah, it was a fun day.
Yeah. Well, there's a tip.
Apparently they
don't
give
give your pillows to squirrels.
No.
How about this one? Every piece of furniture in a living room or a family room should have a horizontal surface close enough to it where you can comfortably put a drink or a glass or a cup of tea, something like that.
Of course.
This is back to sort of how is the room going to function. But oftentimes people don't think about that. You're like, oh, I've got my sofa, and then I've got this coffee table in front of it. Well, what about the person who's on the end of the sofa? Or what about that chair you put across from it? Is that person going to kind of crouch up and lean over and put their glass down? No, this is when the nesting table or the little tiny pedestal tables, something like that, or an ottoman that can be flat, flat on the top and maybe can take a tray, something like that. So work that into your design. It's really important for the functionality and the comfort of the people that are using that room.
Back to the fabric again. Another tip is if you find some antique or vintage furniture pieces that you love, probably they're not going to have a fabric on them that you care for. A lot of these old antique chairs have a tapestry on them that is very, very old, that is just very dated looking and typically not in the best shape. Although we've talked about how you're not going to save money if you buy a chair that needs to be reupholstered. But the reason to go ahead and buy an old chair that needs to be reupholstered isn't to save money, but because of this beautiful hand carving on some of these old chairs. You're not going to buy a new chair that has that kind of carving. They just don't make them anymore. And they don't even use the same woods for these frames anymore. So if you find this beautiful hand carved old, let's say French chair, for example, go ahead and grab it and then get it upholstered in kind of a fresh new fabric. And I've seen some done in so many fun ways with really funky new fabrics. There's so many ways you can reimagine it. My favorite way is actually to reupholster it with grain sack fabric, which is not new. I mean, I have antique grain sack fabric, but the amazing thing is that it's linen and it holds up to stains and it holds up to wear and tear. And even though the fabric I'm using is often 150 years old, it's amazing how strong and durable and stain resistant it is. So, but you don't have to use grain sack. You could use a brand new fabric too.
Yeah. And what's fun to do as well is use a really bold, modern looking,
Yeah, you can do that
contemporary
too.
fabric.
Oh, yeah.
And then juxtapose against the old frame. I think that's really awesome.
Oh, I love that too.
Hey, we'll be right back with the rest of the show, but keep listening so we can continue bringing you DTT. Go ahead, clean out your closet, then head straight to Quince. I love every item Quince offers, from wardrobe to decor, and I can really recommend their Ultra Stretch Super Wide Leg Pant at $49.90. The price is unbeatable, and the look is so flattering. It keeps you in on top and flares out of the bottom. Everything feels right with Quince. The price, the quality, and the sustainability. Quince offers a range of luxury wardrobe and home goods at prices within reach. And like Quince's clothing, their home goods are priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands. Quince only works with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices, along with premium fabrics and finishes. Once you've cleaned out your closet and refreshed with Quince, you can also add something to your home decor. So give your wardrobe and your home the refresh it needs with Quince. Go to quince.com/DTT to get free shipping and 365-day returns on your next order. That's Quince, QUINCE.com/DTT for free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/DTT. And let me know how you love those pants. Green Chef is a delicious delight any time of year, but especially during the holidays. What a wonderful vision to behold as the Green Chef boxes on your doorstep. Green Chef is the #1 meal kit for eating well. And it makes eating well so easy with plans to fit every lifestyle, whether you're keto, paleo, vegan, vegetarian, gluten-free, or just looking to eat a more balanced diet. So let Green Chef take the work out of eating clean this holiday season. And if you've got guests coming, shop Green Bundles. They're now available at the Green Market. It's your one-stop shop for nutritious grab-and-go breakfasts, including vegan options, brunch kits, wholesome lunches, ready-to-eat snacks, veggie sides, and more. You can feel your best this December and do your best with Green Chef because they offset 100% of the delivery emissions as well as 100% of the plastic in every box. Go to greenchef.com/60DTT and use the code 60DTT and get 60% off plus 20% off your next 2 months. greenchef.com/60DTT and use the code 60DTT to get 60% off plus 20% off your next 2 months. And let's talk about the accessories/collections again. Back to that. If you have a collection of things and, maybe you're buying some of the real old things, but then like me, you're mixing in some things from a regular store like a Home Goods or something like that, newer pieces. Unify them with color. So I've done that to great success with my white picture collection. Most of them are old, but some of them aren't. I just like the silhouette or it was the right size. And, it's from TJ Maxx or it's from someplace like that. So if you're going to add to your collection and it's not all going to be, museum quality, something or other, or super old or super expensive, unify it with color. So if blue and white is your thing, you can definitely add new blue and white pieces. But if they're all blue and white, nobody's going to know the difference really, unless it's, you have an antique dealer come over and inspect. So that's a great way to expand your collection and do it, within your budget.
Excellent. How about this? Use rugs liberally throughout your house and go big. I've seen a lot of houses lately where there's no rugs in the house. And
have you been over to my house? Because I just had to say goodbye to yet another rug.
Oh, no.
I say hello to doggies and goodbye to ruggies. So it's not good.
Right. No, I know. And exactly. I mean, sometimes they just.
I'm doing like the Puritan pilgrim look with no rugs.
Well, that's the thing. I was looking at some old pictures of my house when I first moved in, and I had no rugs in the house because we had just moved in. I only had one or two. And it does tend to be a stark look that's not as inviting. And so that's, I think, one of the easiest ways to warm up your space. If you have wood floors, or I shouldn't say just wood, but stone or brick or tile, is to add some area rugs. That it just warms up the space, makes it feel cozy. And there's just kind of a night and day difference, and you can do it. It's just such a quick, easy fix.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
But yeah, watch out for the doggies though.
Yes. Well, stick with me. It'll be a crush or a blog post or something, but I'm diving deep into pet friendly rugs, and I'm going to come up with something that I can just drag outside and hose off or something. I'm going to figure it out because I need a rug or those floor pieces, FLOR, the ones where you can buy them in sections. So if a section goes bad, you can just throw that out without throwing out the whole thing. But stay tuned for that.
I'm not going to ask what exactly happened because
I think we all know, Anita.
Well, no, but
you already said a really gross thing about squirrels, but I'm not going to say anything.
Well, but they could have just dug into the rug, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I would live with a dig. No, this could be my last tip for today because we have a lot of things to cover. So I'm going to make it big.
Oh, okay.
Don't overlook the power of substantial molding.
Good one.
You've heard game changer, room changer. Yeah, that makes a big difference. And it's really pretty easy. I mean, and you can find most carpenters or handyman, they are going to have a miter box and they're going to be able to do it, or you can do it yourself. You just watch some YouTube videos. It's not going to be that hard. And it will substantially change the look of your room.
So true. Got to agree with you on that one. And my last tip for today is to add one wow piece per room. Now, you're not limited to just one, but to try to have at least one wow piece per room. That's going to be your focal point, and that is going to be perhaps maybe what you build the whole room around, but it doesn't have to be. But I just think it's just really something fun to work for, is just have that one, at least one per room. You're going to enjoy it when you walk in there. Your guests are going to enjoy it. And it can be a piece of artwork. It can be a piece of furniture, maybe just a really splashy, fun accessory. So, so just think about that. What's your wow piece per room?
I like that. What's your wow? Okay, we're definitely going to do part 2 because
I
got a lot of things to say.
Me too. I have a massive list.
It's fun. I think I think people will enjoy this. We did one really long time ago that was like tips fast and furious, and I think everybody really liked that. So this is a little bit more in depth than that, which I like too, because we're kind of explaining what we're talking about. So yeah, let's keep these rolling out. Let us know if you like these, or if you have a tip, we can add it to the next part 2.
Okay, hot topic. Now, this is a little bit of a topic. This thing happened several months ago, but is the ending of Design Sponge. I don't know, did you like Design Sponge? Were you kind of a reader of Design Sponge, Kelly?
Yes. And if people don't know what Design Sponge is, it is a very popular decor blog that was started by a woman named Grace Bonney about 15 years ago. She started as a one-woman blog, sort of as Anita and I have our blogs. And then she developed quite a following. And then she hired a team of people to help her. And it really
it was growing like crazy, wasn't it?
Yeah. And she made she had some very interesting things that she talked about and made design very accessible to a lot of people. I'm not really sure the demographic that she was necessarily shooting for, but she seemed to reach a whole lot of people.
Right. And then she was really looking for diversity and style and voices and design. So I think it kind of had a little bit for everybody. But yeah, I mean, it started out like so many blogs, just a design blog. And I don't think she really intended for it to be a money-making thing or a job when she first started, but it became this empire in a lot of ways as she had a staff. Then she started a podcast. I think it was called Good Company, right? But I don't think that's stopped too. And then she had a magazine, Good Company, which I believe also is no longer in print. Now, the good news, if you're a Design Sponge fan, which if you are, you probably already know this, but yeah, they stopped posting content in August, which was exactly her 15-year anniversary. And because they've gotten some funding, you're going to be able to access the site until September of 2020. Now, the interesting thing that's happening in 2020, according to their website, is that their full archives are going to be available online through the Library of Congress beginning that month, September 2020, which I think fascinates me. I didn't even know the Library of Congress did this sort of thing.
Yeah, I don't know. They have a lot of things going on there at the Library of Congress, and I guess I don't know if they would just. I don't know if we'll end up in the Library of Congress. Who knows, Anita? But I think
we can go visit it, maybe.
Right. I think you brought that topic up to discuss, like, sort of, how is that reflective of what's going on in blogging?
Well, right. Just yes. Just kind of like, I just thought it would be an interesting discussion to just kind of like what happened here, what went wrong or what went right, and just kind of discuss it, because I think it's indicative of so much that's going on in the blogging world. I know a lot of people that are closing up their blogs, so it's definitely a changing landscape. So you want to put your thoughts out there?
Yeah. Well, I would assume that a lot of people that listen to us came to the podcast via our blog. So there are our blog readers, and they probably read other decor blogs, so gardening blogs and things like that. And blogging has definitely changed. I just had my, 7th year, and Anita's a few years ahead of me. She started her blog.
It'll be 9 years next month.
So we've been in the game a long time, not as long as Grace, but I read about it. And I also listened to a podcast episode. I think it was from her podcast as to why she was closing. She was fiercely independent, as we all are as solo entrepreneurs doing our blogs, and you're doing your thing and you're presenting the content the way you want to. But I think what happened to her is it started to grow so fast, and then it sort of grew beyond what she wanted it to be. It became a real business where she was going to have to get investment capital to keep going. She had a team of people she had to pay. That's a lot of responsibility. So I think I got the sense that from what she was saying, that it sort of grew beyond what she wanted it to be. And so instead of becoming that and, featuring, the Kardashians' house or something like that, she was not a person doing that. She wanted to feature real people doing interesting things. She decided not to take any money from outside sources, and I'm sure Grace Bonney will bubble to the surface again and do some great things. I think she's a great inspiration. I think Design Sponge is a great blog to read. If you haven't read it before, you could, have a look at it for a while, or as Anita said, somehow get it through the Library of Congress. She also has a book called The Company of Women, which is a really interesting sort of a compendium of a lot of women doing cool things and starting businesses and whatnot. So that's worth a read too. So I think she was true to the Design Sponge mission from the beginning to the end, really. So I say rock on, Grace, and best of luck to you in the future.
Yes. And I think, the other thing I would throw in there is that the landscape has changed so much. And for so many blogs, the ad income has gone down. And, for many people, it is a business. So it has to turn a profit. And so for so many blogs, the profits had gone down because the ad income went down, and she's got a staff to pay. So I think she decided that rather than compromising her ideals, like you were saying, she decided to kind of take control of her destiny and just shut down the blog herself. And bravo, Grace Bonney. I think she's done a great job with Design Sponge, and I'm excited for, whatever she decides to do in the future. I'm sure it'll be a smashing success. And it's been a great website to have. So.
Right. And I mean, I think the takeaway message is, if you want that type of independent content, then you just need to support it. Whether it means reading it or, buying her book or doing whatever, sponsor or something like that, try to support the independent content that way. If that's something you want to see in the world, if everything starts to look the same and you want something that's a little bit different, and Design Sponge definitely brought a different angle to decor. So good stuff, but
yes.
Sad, but good. And, I think, it didn't seem all like a funeral. It seemed kind of like a party, like what's going to happen next. So, but she did start a podcast, and it was very short lived. And I think their last episode was the same month that the whole thing shut down. August 7th was the last podcast. So there are some podcasts that you could listen to if you're interested as well. She interviewed some interesting people, and then she'll tell you, I think in the last one is probably the one I listened to, explained, kind of why they decided to close it down. But if you're new to Design Sponge, check it out. If you were a longtime reader, then there'll be something new, I'm sure.
Yes, there you go.
Pesto pork chops over Parmesan polenta. Not that easy to say, but oh so easy to make with Green Chef. Green Chef is the #1 meal kit company for eating well, and we have such a great deal for you. You're going to save $250. Listen on for the details on that. Green Chef makes eating well easy for any lifestyle, whether you're keto, paleo, vegan, vegetarian, gluten-free, or just looking to eat more balanced meals. You know, we're getting into the busy holiday season, so it's a perfect time to have Green Chef help you out. Let Green Chef take the work out of eating clean this holiday season with their chef-crafted, nutritionist-approved recipes featuring fresh ingredients and nothing artificial. And you know what? You don't have to lose track of your healthy eating habits during the holidays. Every Green Chef customer gets a free session with their registered dietitians who will walk you through how to make clean eating work for you. So sign up for your free session and start on the road towards better health today. And the deal I want to tell you about, visit greenchef.com/DTT250 and use the code DTT250 for $250 off your order. So that's greenchef.com/DTT250 and use the code DTT250 for $250 off your order. Inevitably, with the new year come wellness goals. One very effective and easy to reach goal is to add Dose to your wellness regime. Dose is expertly formulated organic wellness shots that support your liver in one delicious drink. Formulated with ingredients clinically shown to support liver health. Potent turmeric, milk thistle, and ginger. There's 0 sugar and 0 calories. Did you know that your liver performs over 500 special functions? Since I learned all that my liver is doing, I started with Dose to support all those vital functions. I take a shot of refreshing Dose 2 times per week to combat everyday toxins from food, meds, alcohol, and unhealthy air. Since starting with Dose about a month ago, I am definitely feeling an overall improvement in my health. So if you want to give Dose a shot and invest in your health like I have, Dose is offering DTT listeners 15% off your first order, plus an additional 15% off if you subscribe for a monthly delivery. That's 30% off your first order. So go to dosedaily.co/DTT and use the code DTT. That's dosedaily.co.co/DTT and use the code DTT.
Okay, are you ready to go on to our crushes?
Well, I am, but I wanted to do something first. Is that okay?
Of course.
Okay. Well, what I wanted to do is say a big thank you to Ashmelon16 because that is the iTunes name of this wonderful person who left us the nicest review. And I just wanted to call this person out and say thank you so much. And there are several people that have left.
Call them out sounds a little hostile. You mean thank them publicly?
Thank them publicly. Yes. Give them a shout out. All these things. There have been several wonderful reviews lately. This is the last one in. And, they took the time, and I hope that Ashmelon16 is listening. iTunes is so weird. You can't get the person's real name, and almost everybody has a handle. So Ashmelon16, if you're listening, thanks so much. You clearly made our day. Is a 5-star review, which reads as follows. There is no better decor podcast out there.
Whoa.
You could have stopped there, Ashmelon, but you kept going. If you love home decor, you will be obsessed with this podcast. The ladies give great tips and tricks to work with any decor style, and their chemistry makes for an instant hit. I have listened to every single episode at least once, most twice, or even 3 times. Wow. I have learned a lot and wish they had a new release each day because I cannot find another decor podcast that can compete with this series. It's a must listen.
Oh,
so I thought in our must-know decorating tips, I would just read this lovely review where we are called a must-listen. So thank you so much. And thank you to everyone who's left reviews. It makes such a difference on iTunes, which is this obscure kind of like Wizard of Oz-y kind of place.
Algorithm kind of thing, yeah.
You can't really figure out how they tell people about you or whatnot. But the one thing we do know for sure is if you've got a lot of good ratings and reviews, they start to suggest you to other listeners. And of course, we would like to add to our audience because the more the merrier, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Now
All
we're going to
right.
do our crushes.
Well, I was trying to, I had another one, but I'm going to go ahead and go with this one for the today.
Okay.
It is Rachel Khoo's Kitchen Notebook, which is a TV show. And do you remember Rachel Khoo used to have the other TV show called Little Paris Kitchen, Cooking with Rachel Khoo? Do you remember that?
No.
Okay, well, I used to watch it because, I'm Paris obsessed. And she had this little Parisian apartment. And if I remember correctly, she would have people could take reservations, and she turned it basically into a restaurant at night, but she would just have one couple a night, or maybe two couples, one at a time. And it was kind of the hottest ticket in town. It was very hard to get in, obviously, because she would only have a few people at a time. And then she would use those recipes for these dinners to create the show. And so she cooked in this teeny tiny little apartment. Well, now she's moved back to London, which is where she's from. And she's still cooking in a small apartment, but it's a little bit bigger. But it also shows a lot of video of her kind of walking around the city and checking out restaurants and learning about foods, kind of like Julia Child's old shows, some of those where she would go and have an expert teach her how to make something. And it's just a fun show. She's such a bubbly, just charming person. It's so relaxing to enjoy it. It's just really fun. And it just kind of, you just kind of forget about whatever your troubles are for the day. You just feel like, it's just so relaxing.
I am so excited about that. I'm going to watch that.
My goodness, check her out.
And is the old show, the one in Paris, on there too?
Well, that one I think you can find on YouTube, but I don't know where else you can find it.
Okay.
Mhm.
Wow. That's like Airbnb beyond. Like she made her apartment a restaurant.
I think that's right. That's what
so
I'm
fun.
remembering. Yeah,
Wow.
I didn't double check that fact, but so I'm sure if I'm wrong, someone will tell me.
Oh, I
What's
just
your-
like it that way. I'm going to think of it that way.
What's your crush?
Okay, my crush is the floral wallpaper by Ellie Cashman. If you haven't seen this floral wallpaper, oh, you're missing out. It's stunning. And you won't be surprised to hear that Ellie Cashman, although she's an American, she is an expat living in the Netherlands, because the wallpapers are reminiscent of Dutch masters. Flowers are just so stunning. I can hardly get the word out. So check out Ellie Cashman. You can check her out on her website. You can also follow her on Instagram. She's got a great Instagram account. And I'm just trying to figure out where I can use this wallpaper because I want it so badly. I just want to wrap a room in it and just be in there. That would be you could be in that room and watching Rachel Khoo cook, and it would just be like the happiest day ever.
Wow.
Yeah. So check out Ellie Cashman. Really cool. Yeah, definitely. And nice to buy something from, like, that's her.
Mm-hmm.
She made that, she designed those flowers. She made the wallpaper, and now you're buying from her. It's not like you're buying from some gigantic company. I love that as well.
Okay. What's our question?
Okay, so Caitlin B is a military family, so they move around a lot. I think the last time that we helped her with the question was to sort of how you make it cozy, and I think she took you up on that suggestion of having like a special box which you open first when you get to a house, your new house,
right.
and she loved that idea. So this time, they've moved to another home, and they're going to be adopting their first baby.
Oh my goodness!
Right? I don't know how old the child is, but I'm thinking it's a baby. And so Caitlin has two questions. The first is, what would we suggest for essential design elements for a child's room? And this is fun because we don't really ever talk about kids' rooms too much, kind of, in the periphery, but we haven't done an episode about that. So what are your thoughts on that?
At one time people, it was like blue or pink, and then it was pastels, and then it was that they have to be primary colors. My kind of thought is to decorate it probably about the way you want to decorate it, maybe not that far from how you would decorate any room. Obviously you're going to have kid-friendly things in there, toys, cribs, crib and all that stuff. And you're going to have to be careful about safety and everything. But as far as the decor, I think you can really do pretty much what you want. And the reason I say that is because in the not too distant future, your kid is going to say, I hate it, no matter what it is. And you're going to have to change it anyway.
Caitlin, I think that, depending on the age of the child that you're going to be adopting, either a crib or a bed, I wouldn't go with a twin bed, even if it is a small child, or if it's a baby and you have a crib and then you have to get a, big girl or boy bed. I would definitely go with a full or a queen if the room can handle it, because a twin bed is just so small, and you're going to find that you might be in there with your child, or your child might want to get into your bed. And so maybe that's the compromise. If they're having a rough time sleeping, you get into their bed with them. Also, down the line for little sleepovers and whatnot, it's just a better size bed to have. Twins are super small, right?
True.
And people fall out of twin beds, and kids move around a lot. So I would suggest that. I definitely a comfortable chair, particularly if there's an infant coming into your life that you both can be comfortable in. Maybe it's a rocking chair, but that's very typical of a nursery, but doesn't have to be. Just something really comfortable. Maybe it's better not to do an upholstered rocking chair, maybe a chair with an ottoman, because then you have more flexibility later on. A rocking chair does seem very much like a nursery. And I agree with Anita with regard to the colors. I think that baby nurseries have come such a long way in a short time. And not too long ago, it was, the traditional boy and girl colors, and even, bordered wallpaper or murals or things like that. I would sort of stay away from any of that. And you can do, if you wanted to put some sort of childlike mural up, you can do some of the new adhesive wallpaper murals, and so it doesn't hurt the wall when you peel it off. I would get some good window treatments, because maybe during nap time you want something that's going to be blocking the light, so maybe some blackouts or something like that. A nice carpet that's going to be cozy, something that really soft under your little person's either toes or knees or back, depending on how little they are when you bring them home. Changing tables. I think now you can get a changing table that sort of converts into a regular table later on, rather than just having something that's sort of like this weird piece of furniture later on. So those are some things that I would definitely look into. You can have some fun with the accessories, inexpensive sort of mobiles that might hang from the ceiling. So I think you can have a lot of fun with it. Go on Pinterest. That's a great source for lots of kids' room ideas. And then Caitlin had one other question about sort of creating the tension in her own master bedroom with pillows. She's got two plain sort of oblong rectangle pillows, and she wanted to see, what should she do to those pillows to create that little bit of tension that we always talk about. So looking at the photo that she sent of her master bedroom, there's a lot of solids. It's kind of muted colors. So I would suggest a really POW print. They're too small-ish size pillows. Maybe they're 14 by 26 or something like that. So I would just go really bold and fun, and whatever colors you've got in that room, Caitlin, I would just take them to the nth degree in saturation in a print, maybe something kind of wowy floral or an interesting pattern that you're drawn to in your color palette.
Wow. I think that's a lot of wonderful information. And I so agree about the bed size. If you don't need the floor space for playing, to go with a larger bed, I think that's a great. And then, depending if you have guests, it might end up working better that way. So yes, it was so fun hanging out with you today, Kelly. And
loved it.
With everyone listening. So thanks so much for joining us. And remember, we are here to inspire you to create a beautiful home. Until next time.
Want to talk to us? Well, we really want to talk to you. So let's schedule a design consult. Anita and I are here to give you individualized, actionable advice on how to create the beautiful home you want and deserve. It's so easy to schedule a design consult with us. Simply click the link in the show notes or head to decoratingtipsandtricks.com/consult. When we talk to you on the scheduled time, we will be ready with so many great tips, advice, and yes, tricks. So sign up today for a design consult. We can't wait to talk to you.